Anyway, this video is going to be about solo leveling and after the end of season 1, because I started reading the webtoon, manga, whatever it's called. So if you haven't read that, this video may or may not contain spoilers. I'm not 100% sure since I do most of my videos off the cuff. Just want to give you that a fair warning. So if you haven't watched or read anything, but I'm only going to really be talking about the shadows that happened at the end of season 1 and another. Okay, well, before I get into that, click off the video if you don't want to hear about this. Otherwise, you can keep watching. I also want to talk about the other shadow that Jinwoo ended up getting as well, too, because there's a theory or concept that he seems to be doing, or that seems to be taking place within solo leveling whenever he gets the shadows. And this same principle can also be applied to your everyday life as well, too, because you can start to integrate your shadows from your past experiences, because that's all Jinwoo has done. He's decided to experience and or enhance the shadows of the enemies that he has fought and beaten, and he incorporates them into his arsenal of enemies to fight by his side because he defeated the enemies that stood within his way. So you might be facing somebody that's inside of you, not outside of you, because everything works inside of you. If you haven't heard this concept from a couple of my other videos, highly recommend checking out a couple of other videos on the channel after you finish this, because I seem to overlay this concept several times throughout the videos that I do make. Well, what Shenwu did was he was able to cultivate an army of his past defeated enemies. This is the same thing that I believe that I am doing right now, and maybe you can do this as well too. Is like you can cultivate a sense of strength, a sense of strategy, a sense of purpose by using things that you think are against you, by using maybe events that have led you to certain places or something that has defeated you at one point in time, and realizing that those things can then be used at a later time to help you defeat even stronger enemies because you've been able to stack up those skills. So like, let me give you an example. So when I do sales, or even when I was just, actually we'll do this example instead. Today when I was at yoga, I was talking with a guy that led the practice today, and I was having a conversation with him because he had a question written on the whiteboard that said like, what would happen if everything went wrong or something like that. And I asked him, I was like, what do you mean by that? And he's just like, well, yeah, I've been thinking about this a lot recently about like, what's the worst that could happen? And I was like, well, what are you referencing that to? And he's like, well, I want to start a YouTube channel. I was like, dude, that's awesome. Like, that's cool that you should start a YouTube channel. Like, this is the things that I've been doing. And he was telling me about how he's like, if I can just impact one person, which that's all I do, is I just do my best to impact one person, which is why you should subscribe to the channel if you aren't already, because I believe only like 1 or 2% of my audience is subscribed for the people that do watch the videos, just so that then I can help you in your endeavor, on your mission, on your path. And he was telling me about how he wanted to have his skill set of being able to make YouTube videos of like doing yoga to hopefully maybe inspire or have somebody else like change their life. And I was like, oh, that's actually a really smart thing to do, man. Like, what's been holding you back? He's like, well, I don't know. I guess I've just been lazy, just haven't thought about it. And I was like, have you ever posted anything online? And he's like, no, not really. And then I brought up the question, and this is a question that I like asking just because I found it very useful for my own practical purposes, is by finding principles that work in one field that can be worked in another. So I asked him this question. I was like, so do you ever struggle to like say do or practice yoga? And he's like, no, not really. And I was like, well, could you apply that same principle, like when you don't feel like doing yoga and you end up doing it anyways, could you apply that same principle to say like making a video around like YouTube? He's like, yeah, I guess I never really thought about it, because he already had the mic, he had the camera gear, like he has like everything that he needs to be able to create the video. It's just he hasn't posted the video. And I know that I've been in situations like this, and maybe I still am in a situation like this when it comes down to me like creating a business and hiring other people on Fiverr to have them like fulfill this stuff, and I can like hire a sales team and do all these other things to be able to make some extra cash on the side. Not even extra cash, but to be able to build like a 6-figure business is something that I've kind of tossed around the idea with. I mean, my main focus right now is YouTube, by all means, but it's just something that I was kind of contemplating and thinking about, where it's like we all seem to like want to do something, but we never end up doing it. And then what I've come to realize is like taking that first step, taking that first initial like action is always the hardest one. Yet once we take that first step, once we take that first action, that's when everything becomes a whole lot easier. That's when that snowball effect happens. So that's why it's like, if you are wanting to go to the gym, or you're wanting to like start a YouTube channel, or you're wanting to maybe sell something, or you want to get a new job or a new career or whatever it may be, you want to get into self-development, you want to read different books, you want to read a different manga. Like I started reading Solo Leveling today, and I have a whole list of things, which maybe I'll do a second video on this. I have notes right now from like chapter 49 from where season 1 ended, and I was just like kind of thinking of like things that kind of resonated from the story that I was listening to that kind of resonated with my own life. So I have like 1, 2, 3, basically 3 full pages in my notebook of notes right now. So I'll see if I can condense those down and maybe make them into like a more cohesive video, or maybe I'll just read off the quotes. Let me know about that down in the comments down below. But this is something that I kind of came to realize is like, we can only read 1 page at a time. We can only plant 1 tree at a time. We can only watch 1 anime at a time. We can only listen to 1 person talk at a time. We can only do 1 thing at a time. And once we do 1 thing at a time, then we can start to build up from there. We can start to do more than we were doing originally. So like, I'm trying to think of another example for you that may be more applicable to like Jinwoo. So, okay. So with Jinwoo, he was able to go fight like dungeons and demons and dragons. Like, he didn't acquire his ability to get the shadow necromancer. I don't know the exact term for it. You guys can let me know. You guys have more information than I do in this. I'm just the guy that regurgitates information for you, which will hopefully inspire you to do certain things that, or similar things that Jinwoo does. But like, he had to go through all those other he had to go through all these other battles, all these other stages to be able to finally acquire this skill. But he had to take that first step of being able to go into a double dungeon when like nobody else was able to go into the double dungeon. He was the one that decided to stay back and to be the one that was brave enough, and then he was rewarded for his bravery. So it's like, we have to be willing to be brave in our situation and use those past experiences, those past like shadows that maybe we've come up against or that we faced off in, because then we can start to use them to defeat more powerful enemies. So like the story that I was telling you about with like the friend of mine, the yoga instructor, that I was helping him create like YouTube videos, and hopefully doing the same thing for you as well too, with whatever goal you have in mind, is I use the skills that I acquired from like talking with people when I was doing sales and I was making $100+ a day, and I was using those skills and like, okay, well, what is something that like this person already knows, that already exists, that I can help them overcome that said thing, so that then they can go do the thing that they want to do. Because this is what I do for myself. I do this for myself all the time. I look at past experiences of, say, like me riding my bike 70 miles or 60 miles or climbing up a hill or fasting or sitting in the sauna or going to the gym on an empty stomach and fasting. I think I said fasting twice. Or walking 10,000 steps a day, or going on bike rides, or running a half marathon without running and having no personal trainer or coach or anything like that, and just doing it because I wanted to see if I could do it, and realizing that like those are shadows. Those are past shadows of my past experience that I can now use for my future events, that I can now use for when I do come up against stronger bosses or stronger people, because there's always going to be somebody stronger. There's always going to be somebody stronger. And I can be the puppet that's being controlled by somebody else, or I can kind of like take control of my own life and start to decide the decisions and the directions that I want to do by noticing my habits, by noticing my continual thinking, by noticing and becoming aware of shadows that maybe aren't acquired yet, and enemies that are standing in my way that haven't been turned into shadows yet, because I haven't been able to defeat them with the audience that I do have, or with the skills or the traits or the strengths that I do have, or the intelligence, whatever skill or stat that I have. Like, I haven't been able to do that quite yet because I have self-limiting beliefs, and I have to remove those self-limiting beliefs. And then once I remove them, then they can also be turned into shadows, which those shadows then can fight more future enemies that will stand in my way in the near future. Because as long as we keep growing, as long as we want to keep becoming stronger and leveling up as people, as individuals, there's always going to be a time in our life where it's going to feel like the odds are stacked against us. It's going to feel like there's no way out. It's going to feel as if our backs are against the wall. Yet the stronger we get, the easier it is for us to overcome those things, because we know what's happened for us in the past. There's something that I wrote down, which I hope I could find it, but I don't know if I can find it right now. And I don't want to waste all of your guys' time trying to find this, because it's like a story. Each episode like follows the products, but it's like problem solving everyone has their perception. Okay, maybe everyone has their perception, and like we always jump to the conclusions that we want to jump to, but it's like there's just something within here that I really wanted to share with you, and can't seem to find it right now. But here it is. When someone knows they are strong, they have nothing to prove to anyone. They know what they are because they have done it. Because they have done it over and over again when no one else was watching or cared. It was grit and poise. We all start at 0, and the time we put in, I can't even read in my own handwriting sometimes. The time we put into training adds / compounds over time. Because how others are strong people, all-stars, help in defending the enemies that stand in our way. I don't even know, dude. Sometimes my handwriting's all over the place. We all use the stories and experiences we have in our head as past experiences. But that's what I'm saying. When we know how strong we are, we have nothing to prove to anybody else. Like, we know what we're capable of doing. We don't have to put on any ego. We don't have to like spout off to anybody. And this is why I think it's cool seeing how Jin Woo, like, he just kind of pays attention. Like, people talk all this crap about like E-rank hunters and like they discriminate against them, and it's just like, oh, wow, he's just an E-rank. Like, he can't do this. Like, he can't do that. And that's always been the thing that's like driven me, and maybe it drives you too, is like hearing these things of like, oh, like, you grew up in this way, or you were privileged, or you had all these great things, or like, oh, you don't have any debt, or things, your life's so perfect, and whatever it may be, like, oh, he's the golden boy, or whatever it is. And it's just like, you don't feel like that necessarily on the inside. You know it to be true. So you go out and make it a reality. You work towards it. You show that like you got to where you were because you put in work. You struggled. Like, you didn't just show up and just magically have everything handed to you, but people will assume that that's what happened to you, because all they do is they only see the perceptions and the past experiences that they have within their own head, and they can't relay those experiences to the outside world. All they know is what they know. They can only go off of the stories that they themselves had. There's a book on this as well too. It's like The Stories of Our Life or something. No, hold on, bear with me for like 2 seconds. Okay, it's The Truth About Stories. And I know I could cut that out, but I like the genuine aspect of this. And if you've already clicked off the video, that's besides the point. I'm just doing this for the one person that is truly listening and wants to improve their life. Everybody else is just kind of like, clearly they don't want it as bad as you do. And I just want you to have it as bad as you want it. So it's like the stories about our life, or the truth about stories. It's all just our own truth comes from our own stories. It's why, like, we have to go into dungeons. It's why we have to integrate our shadows. It's why we need to have a shadow army. It's why, like, the rewards are always greater. I don't even know what I was going with that one. But it's like, if the rewards are great, the difficulties must also be high. So it's like, if you want to have great things in life, you have to be willing to make great sacrifices. You have to be willing to do things that nobody else is willing to do. You have to be willing to take the barrage, or the barrage of people doubting you and doubting your abilities, when you know truly within your heart of hearts and within your own mind and your skills and your intuition that you can do anything that you can do the exact opposite, and you can succeed in ways that they didn't even know was possible, that you can protect and save everybody within the dungeon. Like, I'm on chapter 72 right now, and it's insane, dude. Like, I don't know what it is, but I felt like I needed to read this today, and this is what I've been doing, and I wanted to share this with you. I wanted to let you know that, like, the things that you're going through, the things that you're struggling with, the battles that you're fighting, like, they are scars that are going to be used and turned into your own shadow army. That shadow army is going to help you defeat even stronger enemies in stronger dungeons and stronger places that you didn't originally know that you were going to be going to, but you're adding up your skill levels, you're adding up your traits. Like, we can think about it in terms of like video games. If you play video games, I want to say Mario, even though there's not really a leveling system in Mario. Oh, I haven't played video games in a minute, dude. But like, let's say, what video game has a leveling system that I used to play? There was a Harry Potter game on the GameCube that I used to play. And I would play that game for hours, dude. And I would just grind, man. I'd grind and level my character up to the best like level that I could. Oh, I could even think about like Call of Duty. Like Call of Duty, the higher the levels, the more guns that you unlock. And the more guns that you unlock, the more powerful you become. Can be like that. Can also be like Dota, which I don't play Dota. Or there's a Helldivers. There's probably that in Helldivers as well too. Like the more money you get, and then you can get skills and you can pay for all these games. I watch games online. I just don't play them myself personally. So I can only give such references. But it's like, you want to level yourself up so that then you can defeat stronger and stronger characters and bosses. Like in Mario, I will use a Mario reference. Like in Mario, the very first boss, super easy. And then you go to the second boss, it's a little bit harder. The third boss, even harder. There's just this little bit of a progressive overload as you seem to move up the tiers in the video game. And then as you move up the tiers, your skills as that character, as you, have improved over time because you've put in the reps. And those reps apply to any aspect. Like if you can put in the reps in a video game, you can put in reps in the gym. If you can put in reps in the gym, you can put in reps in your mind. If you can put reps in your mind, you can put reps in a book. You can put reps anywhere that you want to. It's just about changing that perspective and realizing that the people that are like in your life and the things that you're reading and the influences that you have, they're creating your own shadow army that's going to be able to grow into something that's bigger than you ever even knew was possible. Because now all of a sudden you can start to defeat all these other enemies, these other people that stand in your way, and now you have a team standing behind you. You aren't just doing it by yourself like you once were in the beginning. It's just the hard part that I've come to realize, and hopefully this video is going to convey this to you as well too, is like, and I know I'm probably covering 3 or 4 different points, but I know somebody out there listens to this all the way through, and I appreciate you doing that, man. I really do. And I know that you're a man because I don't think that there's like, I think it's like 2% of people in my audience are women that seem to watch this. But yeah, like, I need that back. Hold on. Where was I? I was going somewhere with that. I don't want to leave you guys hanging. I need that back. This is what I'm saying, dude. Like, I don't really know what I'm just letting something else channel through me. What was I saying? Okay, so it was about the aspect of you're not having to do it alone anymore. Like, you have a team. You have other people that are supporting you. You have other individuals that are wanting to see you succeed as much as you want them to succeed. Because when I am you, you are me, and you are me, and I am you. So it's this whole concept that I want you to hopefully understand. Like, when Jin Woo takes out these shadows and makes these enemies into his shadow monsters, like, he's just bringing out different aspects of himself, other enemies that he's defeated that are helping him along his journey. Okay, I think that's about it that I have to say for this right now. I have another question that I still want to ponder, and I want to leave you guys with this. And if you made it to the end of the video, like, I mean, happily leave a comment. I don't know how many people actually do make it to the end of the video, but like, what is a player? Like, in the game of solo leveling, like, what is a player? Not like a player in like game, like, oh, this dude gets a lot of women or something like that, but like, what is a player? Think about that and let me know. Talk with you guys soon.